You started a baseball Hall of Fame. Tell us how that came about.
Well, I looked around and I saw some other schools were doing that, like McMinn Central and some others. And, I just felt like, I was getting recognition throughout my coaching career. And, I just thought, well, I'm getting this recognition because of these players, because we're winning. If we didn't have players, nobody would, I wouldn't be receiving any Coach of the Year honors, wouldn't be in any Hall of Fame. So, I just thought, well, these players need to be recognized because at the time, they may not have got the recognition that they deserved, and I wanted to recognize them. And so, I decided to start a Hall of Fame. It kind of started as I was putting signs onto the fence, out on our outfield fence, and I would put some of our top players a sign for them out there. And then I thought, we need to do something more than that. So, we started the Baseball Hall of Fame at Loudon.
That's good. Looking back over your career, would you have done anything differently?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you learn a lot. You learn a lot in 39 years. First of all, I would have, excuse me, I would have made sure I had a team picture of every team. Because back when we started, as you remember, you were there. When we started, I remember when Coach Gibson asked me about coaching. He said, "Now you're not going to get paid anything the first year, but if it catches on, we'll start paying you." Well, it caught on, and so and me being young, I never saw myself there for 39 years coaching. I wish I'd have taken a picture. I had a team picture each year. And I'm really sorry that we didn't do that. I wish we had had some type of, like they do now, senior days, where each senior was giving something to remember their high school career with, which I didn't do because I didn't think about it. I didn't know about it. And I wish I'd have done that. And I wish in my early years I had communicated better with players. I communicated with them fine, but when you're young, you don't really understand some things that you learn through experience, and I learned a lot through experience.
During those 39 years, how did the game itself change?
Well, high school baseball changed a lot. Back when we started the first thing, we used wooden bats. Then aluminum bats came the next year. Even today, they've weakened the bats that they use. That's a change. But just in Tennessee, when I started, baseball was a minor sport. And even then I hated anybody calling it a minor sport. When I left, it was a major sport because back when I started, they got anybody to coach, and I guess I was one of these anybody's to coach. Whoever they could find to coach, they would get. And a lot of times it was your football assistants, your other sports assistants, but it wasn't their main priority. Today, they hire baseball coaches that's their main priority. And if you'll look around at the fields in East Tennessee, you'll see how much time is spent on that. And just how baseball has grown in importance and everything.
Oh, yeah. Back a few years ago, the stadium was named in your honor. How did that make you feel?
Well, they came to me right before the 2005 district tournament and said that they wanted to do that. The first thing I thought was, oh no. I say, we're going to do this right before we're playing the North City in the district tournament. And so I kind of worried about that, but then they'd already decided to do that, so I went along with that. Okay, but it was a great honor. It's a great honor. I remember it was more so for my parents because that really meant something to them. I remember my mother telling me my father would drive by and he'd see the name up there and he'd say it was named after him, which would be fine with me. That'd be fine with me. And but it means more than just a name on a stadium. Or a field. It means the tradition that was built there, and it means all the players that played there that helped to build that field. Because if we hadn't had good teams and good players, that field wouldn't have been built. Because we had to get the approval from everyone. And so, yeah, it's kind of a tribute to all the players and to the baseball program in general from that period of time.
And there is a lot of pride among former players.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's still a great pride because they all, it's like a family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody, and that's how when we played. That's how it was. You know, it was a team. It wasn't individuals. It was team, and that's what I always. That's what I emphasized. You know, it's a team game, and they all bought into that. If they didn't buy into it, they weren't there. They ended up not playing. And today it's still the same because I have a lot of them talk to me, and the first thing they do is start talking about the old times. Remember the old times? Like I could talk to you a lot about some old stories too, as you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's funny things that happened through the years. Can you tell us a few funny stories?
Well, the first year we had a manager that I gave him a box of baseballs. I said, "Don't you let anybody have any of these baseballs." Where our starting pitcher comes up and wanting a baseball to throw with. Well, the manager wouldn't give him one, so I had to break up a fight, just about a fight, before that game. I won't call any names unless you want me to, but that's one funny story. Of course, then we had a game at Webb where we had a runner at second base, and we got a base hit, and we had runners at first and second, and got a base hit, and I was waving my runner around third to go home, and he went around third, headed home. So then I'm waving my runner around in second to come to third. Well, the runner going home thinks I am calling him back to third. So he turns around about 5 feet from home plate and starts running back into third. I've got this other running coming toward third. They both slide into third at the same time. I don't know where this person comes from that's coming back. So I just stood there with my mouth wide open. They're both on the base. The catcher's there, somebody's there with the ball, and they both step off third base and they tag them out. So a double play on that, and that would have been one of the funny. We still talk about that. That's one of the funny stories there.
The travel has changed quite a bit since we began the program.
Yeah.
I remember we used to go in cars and station wagons to the games.
Well, that first year we had to get people to drive. I remember the first game we went to was McMinn County, and I remember I got lost coming back. Well, that's how and yeah, we took cars. Second year we took cars, and then around the late '70s we started taking a bus, and then we got a van. I drove a van around all over East Tennessee for a lot of years to the van. Then we ended up we finished up with the bus. The laws changed.
Right.
You couldn't have. I think we had players driving at the beginning, and you can't do that anymore. And you have to have. You got to have. Buses or vans, and that's the safe way now to do the safe things.
I remember Inky Sweeney used to drive. Who else drove that?
Well, Inky did. I know that Jim Fields drove a lot, especially that second year. Jim would drive Joe Ford's mother.
His station wagon.
Mm-hmm. Steve Martin's mother, even in, of course, those were summer games, though. Steve Martin's mother drove a lot, but, we just had whoever we could get.
Yeah.
And I've drove quite a bit too with my cars, and it's like what I'm talking about. It's changed a lot.
All right. Going back into Philadelphia, your grandfather John Thompson started the Thompson Store in 1899, I believe. Then your grandfather Ernest, and then your dad Bill continued the store. So what are some of your memories of Thompson Store of Philadelphia?
Well, I grew up in that store. You know, I stayed. I would go over there every day, and I would, you know, just. I love going into the store. My memories, though, I remember 3:30 whistle in the mill, and I remember all these people flooding out of the mill coming. They would all come into the store because I remember that was the busy time for my grandparents and my parents. It was the ones that worked there. Of course, that were my grandparents, my parents. Pretty much ran it, and I just remember. I remember the wooden stove in the back. They used to roast hot dogs and marshmallows on. I remember in the back of the store there was an area where we kept all the hardware and stuff like that. And I remember upstairs in the store, and that was like kind of like a museum up there because you could go up there and you could see things that were old. I mean, probably early 1900s, and you know, we like. Civil War muskets were there, and there were a lot of old clothes, just a lot. And I used to like going up there just to look around and see what all was up there. And of course, I remember my friends would all come in there, and of course, they'd get scoops of ice cream. Mm-hmm. And just like I say, I grew up in that store. I stayed there, you know, pretty much. The late 50s, early 60s until I got to high school. I would stay there all the time, and it was I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. It was a good time.
Well, was that like a general store?
It was a general store, yeah.
So what all did they sell?
Everything. I mean, meat. Just it'd be like your stores today, but see, it ended up because of all the chain stores, you know, they could sell stuff cheaper mm-hmm. than your small stores could. Like everything else, it kind of had to fade away. Mm-hmm. And but meat, ice cream, just all types of canned goods, clothes, you know, pretty much really? Everything. Yeah.
So it closed in what year?
My father became a mail carrier full time in 1979.
Okay.
After that, I think my grandmother and my mother tried to keep it going a little bit. My father would work some after the mail route, mm-hmm. and I'd say it stayed open 2 or 3 years after that, okay. And then it pretty much had to close.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us, either about baseball or Thompson Store?
Yeah.
Store.
Yeah. Well, I think I've covered a lot.
Okay.
Let's see. Of course, baseball is what I remember the most now, and I just remember all the good times, I watched a program grow. I watched a program go from nothing, pretty much, mm-hmm. to what it is today.
It's got to be satisfying, rewarding.
That's very rewarding right there. Yeah.